I wake up at 5:42 a.m. every day, even though there's nowhere left I have to be. Old habit. Same as pouring coffee before the kettle finishes boiling. Same as checking my phone, even though no one calls that early anymore. My wife used to say my body clock was wired directly into the dealership doors. 6 days a week, 38 years. When you open that many mornings, your bones remember. The house is quiet in the way only a paid-off house can be. No ticking mortgage. No voices. Just the hum of the refrigerator and the occasional click from a thermostat. Set stubbornly at 68. Because heat costs money and comfort is overrated. I was 69 that spring. Widowed 12 years. Retired 7. Still the kind of man who folds receipts and keeps them in a drawer labeled taxes, old, even though the accountant told me 3 times I could throw them out. At 6:11 a.m., my phone buzzed. Linda, my daughter didn't call often. Text mostly. Emojis sometimes. Calls meant trouble. Dad, she said, voice soft, careful. The voice she used when she was about to ask for something. I'm awake, I said. You sound surprised. A small laugh. Practiced. I was hoping you'd be. She didn't ask how I was. I noticed that. You start noticing things when you're old, not because you're wiser, but because you've been fooled enough times to recognize the rhythm. We talked about nothing for a minute. Weather. Her job. Something about drywall dust. Then she cleared her throat. So, I'm in a bit of a bind. There it was. She told me about a leak. Bathroom floor. Mold. Contractor wanted cash up front. Insurance dragging its feet. All reasonable. All plausible. She said the words temporary and just until more than once. I wouldn't ask if I had another option, she said. How much? I asked. There was a pause. Just long enough. 48,000. I let that number sit between us. $48,000 is not a small loan. It's a used Lexus. It's a year at a decent assisted living place. It's the difference between worrying and not worrying. For 3 months, she added quickly. I'll pay you back by August. I swear. I looked at the kitchen table. The same table where she'd once spilled grape juice and cried like the world was ending. The same table where my wife balanced checkbooks with a pen she never lost. What does the contractor say if you wait? I asked. He won't, she said. He's already booked out. I didn't believe her. Not entirely, but belief is a muscle, and mine had gone soft where my daughter was concerned. I asked for details. She gave me some, names I couldn't verify, dates that slid around a little when I repeated them back. 3 months, I said, and this is a loan, not a gift. Of course, she said, too fast. I told her I'd think about it. After the call, I sat there longer than usual. Coffee cooling, toast untouched. I thought about the dealership, Harris Auto Group. My name still faintly embossed on the old sign I'd let the new owners keep out of courtesy. I thought about how many loans I'd approved in my life, how many I denied, and how every bad one started with a story that almost made sense. By noon, I wired the money. April 3, RD point, 12:47 p.m. $48,000. Linda Harris. Memo. Loan repay by August 1st. I saved the confirmation PDF, printed it, put it in a folder. Old habits. She texted a heart emoji and thank you, Dad. You saved me. I didn't answer. That night, as I locked the front door, I noticed my car keys on the hook by the light switch. I don't drive much anymore. Groceries, pharmacy, church on Sundays when I feel up to it. Still, I keep the keys where I can see them. Some things, even when you're done with them, you don't stop owning. And some debts don't start showing interest. By May, the house had started to smell like dust and lemon cleaner. The way it does when you clean not because it's dirty, but because you have time. I wiped surfaces that didn't need wiping. Reorganized drawers that only held one thing. Took the batteries out of the smoke detectors just to check their expiration dates and then put them back exactly where they were. The calendar on the fridge still showed April, because I hadn't turned the page yet. I knew what month it was without looking. Linda sent texts. Not many. Short ones. Busy week. Contractor finally started. So loud here, you wouldn't believe it. No pictures. No invoices. No complaints about overruns, which is what contractors live for. That struck me as odd. When my wife and I remodeled the kitchen in '98, I learned 2 truths. Work always takes longer, and it always costs more. By the end of May, the truth was neither of those things seemed to be happening. I called her on June 2nd at 7:14 p.m. That IT rang 5 times, then went to voicemail. "Hey," I said after the beep. "Just checking in. Call me back." She didn't. On June 10th, I tried again. This time she answered breathless. "Dad, hi. Sorry, I'm in the middle of something. Just wanted to see how the repairs are going." "They're fine. Almost done." "Almost done since April?" A pause, then a laugh that didn't quite reach her lungs. "You know how it is." I did know how it was. That's what bothered me. After the call, I opened my laptop, the old Dell with the scratched lid, and logged into my bank account. I wasn't looking for anything specific. That's what people always say when they're about to find something. The balance was lower. Not dangerously. Not yet. But it sat differently in my chest than it used to. $48,000 gone is not a crisis if you spent your life preparing for not having crises. Still, I opened the folder labeled Linda. It was thin, just the wire confirmation and a handwritten note I'd made to myself. 3 months. August 1st. I checked the date. June 14th. I drove to the post office that morning, mostly because I could. On the way back, I stopped at the gas station on Maple and 3rd, the one with the new charging stations out front, installed where the old air pumps used to be. 2 Teslas were plugged in, white and midnight blue. The blue one caught my eye not because it was special, but because Linda's favorite color had always been blue. Navy, cobalt, anything but baby blue, she used to say. A woman about her age stood next to it, tapping at her phone. Sunglasses, clean sneakers. She laughed at something on the screen and leaned against the driver's door like it belonged to her. I didn't think it was Linda. I told myself immediately. People see patterns where they want to. That's how superstition starts. Still, I slowed down. The car was new. No dealer plate frame yet. Temporary tags taped inside the rear window. I caught the edge of the number as I passed, just enough to notice it started with a 9, which meant California manufacture. Old knowledge. Useless knowledge. Knowledge that should have retired when I did. At home, I made a sandwich and ate it standing up. Turkey, too much mustard. The TV played a rerun of a game show I didn't like. I left it on anyway. At 3:26 p.m., Linda texted. "Sorry, I missed your call earlier. Crazy day. Talk soon, I promise." I stared at the word promise longer than I should have. That night, I pulled out the photo album from the hallway closet, the thick one with the cracked spine. There was a picture of Linda at 17, standing in front of the dealership sign, keys in her hand like she just won something. She'd begged me to let her drive the demo car that summer. I'd said no. Too much power. Too much responsibility. She'd sulked for a week. I'd given in on the 8th day. People think indulgence is love. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it's just fear of being disliked. On July 1st, exactly 1 month before repayment, I sent her a text. Just a reminder. We said August 1st. Let me know if you need to talk through the details. The typing dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again, then nothing. 3 days later, a neighbor stopped me while I was taking out the trash. "Your daughter drives a Tesla now?" he asked, casual as weather. My hand tightened on the trash bag. I didn't know she was doing that well. I smiled because that's what men my age do when they're embarrassed. "Oh," I said, "that must belong to someone else." He shrugged, saw her charging it over by the school, thought I recognized her. That night I didn't sleep. I lay there listening to the house settle. Each small sound of footstep I couldn't place. At 2:18 a.m., I got up and went to the desk in the spare bedroom, the one that used to be Linda's room before she decided pink walls were childish and moved out. I turned on the lamp, opened the laptop. I told myself I was just curious. Curiosity, after all, had paid my bills for nearly 4 decades. I typed 6 letters into a search bar. And that was when the old doors in my head unlocked. Because some things you never really stop owning. And some numbers never forget who taught them their meaning. The search page loaded slowly, the way it does when it knows you're about to regret something. White background, empty fields, a blinking cursor waiting to be fed. I hadn't typed a VIN into a database in years. Not since I sold my last inventory batch and signed papers that said I was fully divested. Lawyers love that phrase. It sounds permanent. It isn't. I cracked my knuckles. Old habit. The joints answered back. The neighbor had mentioned the school charging station. I opened Google Maps, zoomed in, switched to satellite view like a man casing his own past. The image was dated March. Useless. Still, the charging stations were there, clear as day. Linda lived 12 minutes from the school. I opened my email and searched her name. Nothing recent. I searched for the contractor she'd mentioned. No results. No invoices. No forwarded estimates. I searched Tesla just to prove to myself I was being paranoid. One result. Delivery window confirmation. June 22nd. From an address I didn't recognize. Forwarded from Linda's phone to her personal email. Probably by accident. People forward things without thinking when they're excited. I open it. Congratulations on your new Tesla Model Y long range. Delivery date, June 24th, 2024. Location, Fremont Distribution Hub. VIN, 779PF. The number sat there, naked and undeniable. My mouth went dry in that old, familiar way. The way it used to when a buyer lied to my face about their income. June 24th. I leaned back in the chair and stared at the ceiling. The fan ticked once as it slowed, like it was listening. $48,000. Wired April 3rd. Delivery June 24th. Not repairs. Not mold. Not drywall dust. A Tesla. I copied the VIN. Opened another tab. Logged into a system I technically shouldn't have had access to anymore. But the password still worked. It always does, until someone thinks to change it. The report populated line by line. Purchase price, $61,430. Down payment, $45,000. Financing, $16,430. Lien holder, Tesla Finance LLC. Down payment. I laughed then, out loud, a sharp sound that startled me. $45,000. Almost the exact amount I'd wired. Minus a few thousand to make it look like she chipped in. Clever. The car was registered in her name. Address correct. Insurance active. No cosigner. She hadn't needed one. Cash talks, even when it's borrowed. I scrolled further. Delivery method, customer pickup. Temporary tag issued, June 24th. Final registration, pending. Pending. That word has weight when you know how to use it. I printed the page. The printer whined, protested, then complied. The paper came out warm, like it was embarrassed to be involved. I sat there holding it, thinking about all the times Linda had rolled her eyes at the dealership. Dad, it smells like rubber in here. Dad, do you really need to check their license again? Dad, nobody scams you anymore. Nobody. At 9:03 a.m., my phone buzzed. Linda, Dad. Hi, she said, cheerful, bright. Too bright. I was just about to call you. Were you? I said. Yeah, of course. I wanted to update you. I didn't answer right away. Let silence do what it does best. So, she continued, the house stuff is basically wrapped up. We're just waiting on. Do you like it? I asked. Another pause. Longer this time. Like what? The Model Y, I said. Long range. Blue. The line went dead quiet. No background noise. No breathing. You ran my VIN, she said finally. Not a question. I ran a VIN, I said. Happened to match yours. You had no right. I had every right. I cut in and felt the heat rise then. Not boiling. Just simmering. You used my money. I was going to pay you back. With what? I asked. The heated seats? Her voice changed. Sharper. Defensive. I needed something reliable. Something safe. You needed drywall, I said. You asked for drywall. I said repairs, she snapped. I didn't specify. Don't, I said quietly. Don't do that thing where you twist words and call it clarification. She sighed. A performance. Dad, it's just a car. I looked at the printed page. The numbers. The dates. No, I said. It's a lie with wheels. She started crying then, or something close enough to sound like it. She talked about stress, about being overwhelmed, about how I wouldn't understand because I'd always had it easier. That part hurt more than the theft. I built everything I had, I said, including the money you spent. I'm still going to pay you back, she insisted. Just not by August. I closed my eyes. I want the car, I said. What? I want the car, I repeated, until the loan is repaid, or I'll take legal steps. You wouldn't, she said, and I could hear the disbelief now. Real disbelief. You wouldn't do that to your own daughter. I thought about all the people I'd repossessed cars from over the years. Men with shaking hands. Women with kids in the back seat. I'd been called every name there was. I'd also slept just fine. I wouldn't, I said. But you already did. She hung up on me. At 11:17 a.m., I made 3 phone calls. One to a man at the DMV who still owed me a favor from 2009. One to the finance manager who'd replaced me and never quite filled my chair. And one to my attorney. By noon, the Tesla was no longer just a car. It was collateral. And for the first time since my wife died, I felt something solid settle in my chest. Not rage, resolve. The thing about retirement is people assume your hands go soft. They don't. They just stop seeing what you're doing with them. By Tuesday morning, the sky had that dull, overcast look that makes even new buildings seem tired. I drove downtown in my Buick 2008 beige, paid off in 2012, and parked 2 blocks from the DMV because I hate circling for spaces. I still walk like a man who expects the day to take effort. Franklin Cole was waiting for me in records. 64. Divorced twice. Still wore his tie too tight, like he was afraid paperwork might escape. Didn't think I'd see you back in here, he said, smiling in that way that pretends this isn't a favor. Didn't plan on it, I said. Life improvises. He closed the door behind me. The blinds were half tilted. That room had heard more confessions than most churches. I laid the papers out on the desk. Wire confirmation, email printout, VIN report, loan memo with my handwriting still sharp. This isn't a repo, he said after a minute. Not yet. I know, I said. It's leverage. He nodded. Registrations still pending. Title hasn't finalized. Meaning? Meaning she doesn't legally own it yet, he said. Not the way she thinks she does. I smiled then, just a little. Franklin leaned back. You didn't hear this from me. I never do. By noon, I was at the old dealership. The sign said Harris Auto Group in faded chrome letters. I'd let them keep it when I sold the place. Sentimental weakness. Or maybe I liked the idea of my name still being useful. Tom Alvarez met me in the lot. He'd started as a lot porter at 21. Now, he ran financing. Jesus, he said, shaking my hand. You look exactly the same. Then you need glasses, I said. We sat in his office. Same desk, different coffee mug. I explained, slowly, clearly. Dates, numbers, no emotion. He didn't interrupt. She used cash, he said when I finished. Tesla Finance doesn't care where it came from. DMV does, I said. And so does a signed loan agreement. I slid the document across. He read it twice. You always told me, he said finally. Paper beats promises. I nodded. Can you help? I asked. He hesitated. Then, I can introduce you to someone who can. That was enough. By Thursday, the Tesla had a flag on it. Not a tow order. Not yet. A hold. Administrative. Boring words that scare people who've never had to read them carefully. Linda didn't know any of this. She texted me that afternoon. You're being cruel. I didn't answer. She texted again an hour later. I'm your daughter. I stared at the screen. Thought about how many times I'd heard that line from customers when they wanted a discount. Blood doesn't change numbers. It just makes them harder to collect. On Friday, my lawyer called. Clean, he said. Loan is documented. Funds traceable. Misrepresentation clear. Next step? Demand letter. Then possession. Timeline? A week. Maybe less. I thanked him and hung up. That night, I slept better than I had in months. Deep, unbroken. The kind of sleep you get when decisions stop rattling around in your head because they found a place to sit. Saturday morning, I drove past the school charging station again. The blue Tesla wasn't there. I felt a flicker of something. Loss, maybe, but it passed. Ownership is not affection. It's responsibility. On Sunday after church, I saw her. She was waiting by my car when I came out, arms crossed, sunglasses hiding her eyes. You embarrassed me, she said. I didn't say a word, I replied. You know what I mean? I do, I said. That's why I did it. Her voice dropped. Give me time. I gave you money, I said. Time comes after. She stared at me like she was seeing someone elsewhere in my face. This isn't over, she said. I unlocked the Buick. No, I agreed. It's just finally started. As I pulled away, I caught my reflection in the rearview mirror. Old, tired, still capable. Some keys, no matter how long they've been on the hook, still turn when you need them to. And I was done pretending otherwise. The demand letter went out on a Monday. July 22 ND.9:06 AM. Certified mail. Return receipt requested. For pages. No adjectives. Just facts, dates, and a deadline. Linda signed for it herself. I know because the green card came back 2 days later. Her name looped and rushed, like she'd been in a hurry to be angry. She called me that night at 10:41 p.m. You blindsided me, she said. No greeting. No hesitation. Do you have any idea what you've done? I've reminded you of a date, I said. August 1st. You agreed to it. You involved lawyers, she hissed. You made me look like some kind of criminal. You spent money you didn't have, I said. That's not a misunderstanding. That's math. I needed the car, she said. I have meetings. Clients. You think I can show up in some old beater? I looked at the phone, then at the Buick keys on the table. You grew up riding in station wagons, I said. And you survived. She laughed then, bitter. You just want to punish me. I thought about that. About punishment versus consequence. About how those words get blurred when people don't like the outcome. I want my money, I said. The car is how that happens. She hung up. 3 days later, on Thursday, the hold turned into possession. Not dramatic. No tow truck in the night. No shouting in the driveway. Just paperwork moving from one desk to another. Signatures aligning like dominoes. At 1:18 p.m., Tom called. It's done, he said. Where is it? I asked. Back lot, he replied. Looks strange without plates. I drove there slowly. Took the long way. Past streets I used to know by heart. The dealership lot felt smaller than it used to. Or maybe I was just taller once. The Tesla sat alone near the fence. Blue paint catching the sun like it didn't know it was in trouble. Temporary tags gone. No name on it now. I walked around it once. Didn't touch it. Ownership doesn't require affection. Tom stood a few feet away, hands in his pockets. She came by earlier, he said. When? Yesterday. Screaming. Threatened to go to the news. And the news likes villains with better stories, he said. This one didn't have legs. I nodded. An hour later, she showed up again. This time I was there. She pulled in fast, parked crooked, and stormed across the lot. People looked. Salesmen pretended not to. You can't do this, she said, voice shaking. That's my car. It's a car, I said, and it's collateral. You're humiliating me, she said. You humiliated yourself, I replied. Calm, steady, the way I used to speak to customers when deals fell apart. She turned to Tom. You know me. You watched me grow up. Tom shifted his weight. I watched your dad build this place, he said. That's what I remember. Her face changed then. Not anger. Something smaller. Panic. I'll pay you, she said to me. Just give me time. I'll refinance. I'll sell some things. You already did, I said. You sold trust. She slapped the hood of the Tesla. The sound echoed too loud. I hate you, she said. No, I answered. She left without looking back. That afternoon, I signed another set of papers. Transfer of possession. Authorization to resell. The car was listed by evening. Price fair. No favors. No family discounts. On Saturday, an older man came in. 72. Cane. Careful eyes. Recently widowed, according to Tom. Lived alone. Wanted something quiet, reliable. Something new, before time ran out on choices. He circled the Tesla slowly. Asked smart questions. Took notes. This yours, he asked me. It was, I said. He nodded. Still is, in a way. He paid in full. As I watched him drive away, the blue paint disappeared past the gate. I felt something loosen in my chest. Not joy. Balance. Because justice, when it's done right, doesn't raise its voice. It just changes hands. The money hit my account on Monday morning. July 29 th.8:32 am. $59,870.12. Wire transfer. Memo, vehicle sale, net proceeds. I stared at the number longer than I needed to. Not because it surprised me, but because it settled something. The loan, the lie, the silence, converted into a figure that could be pointed to, circled, reconciled. Paper has a way of ending arguments. After fees, taxes, and Tom's cut, I was whole again. More than whole, technically. But profit wasn't the point. It never is when it's personal. Profit just makes the story harder for the other side to tell. My lawyer called at 9:11. That's satisfied, he said. Plus excess. I recommend returning the difference. I will, I said. Good, he replied. It strengthens your position. I smiled. Even now, someone thought there might be a next move. At 10:47, Linda texted. You sold it. Not a question. Yes, I replied. 3 dots appeared. Vanished. Appeared again. You had no right. I typed, erased, typed again. Read the documents. She didn't answer. I cut a cashier's check for $11,870.12 that afternoon. The excess. I mailed it certified, same as the demand letter. Same green card. Same careful loops of ink. I kept copies of everything. On August 1st, the original due date, I woke up early and went to the bank in person. Deposited nothing. Withdrew nothing. Just stood there while a young teller asked if there was anything else she could help me with. No, I said. This was enough. The house felt different that day. Light maybe. Or quieter. Grief rearranges rooms over time. Resolution does something similar. I boxed up the Linda folder and moved it to the back of the file cabinet. Not destroyed. Not forgotten. Just archived. She didn't call. Not that day. Not the next. On August 6th, she showed up unannounced. I was fixing the loose hinge on the pantry door when the bell rang. 3 sharp presses, like she expected resistance. She looked smaller somehow. Tired. No sunglasses this time. I got your check, she said. I assumed, I replied. You didn't have to send it. I did, I said. It wasn't mine. She stepped inside without being invited. Looked around like she was seeing the place for the first time. The worn couch. The framed photo of her mother on the shelf. You could have just talked to me, she said. I tried, I said. You were busy. She swallowed. I'm in trouble now. I waited. I had plans, she continued. The car was part of it. Image, momentum. I nodded. That's how debt works. Her eyes flashed. You always do this. Make everything about principles. I leaned against the counter. Principles are what's left when feelings fail. She laughed softly. You chose money over me. I shook my head. I chose truth over pretending. She stood there a moment longer. Then, I don't know how to fix this. I looked at her, really looked, the lines starting around her mouth, the impatience that had once been ambition. You already did, I said. You learned something. She left without hugging me. After the door closed, I sat down at the kitchen table. The same one, the same grain in the wood. I felt tired, not sad, finished. Because when everything is said and done, justice doesn't need applause. It just needs records. And records, unlike people, don't forget what they owe. Autumn came in quietly that year. No big storm. No dramatic temperature drop. Just a thinning of the light. The kind you only notice when you've lived long enough to compare it to other years. I started wearing my jacket again, the one with the frayed cuff my wife used to threaten to replace. On October 3rd, I drove to the pharmacy on Kent Avenue at 10:18 a.m. blood pressure refill. Same pharmacist. Same polite smile. On the way back, I stopped at the light by the old library. The one that stays red longer than it should, like it's thinking. A blue Tesla rolled up beside me. Same color. Same model. Clean, but not showroom clean anymore. Lived in. Behind the wheel sat the man who bought it. 72. Cane folded in the passenger seat. He nodded at me through the glass, recognized me. I nodded back. Across the intersection on the sidewalk stood Linda. I recognized her before I realized I had. Hair pulled back, phone in her hand, waiting to cross. She saw the car. I watched it happen in stages. First confusion, then recognition, then something like disbelief, as if the universe had made a clerical error. Her eyes followed the Tesla, followed the driver. Then, finally, found me. We looked at each other through 2 lanes of traffic and a decade of misunderstanding. The light stayed red. She didn't wave. Neither did I. The light turned green. The older man eased forward, careful, respectful of the machine and the moment. The car hummed past the crosswalk, blue paint catching the afternoon sun. Linda stood still. I drove on. At home I made soup, the simple kind. Celery, onion. Too much salt, probably. I ate it slowly, standing by the sink, listening to the radio talk about things that didn't matter. That evening, I took the keys off the hook and set them in the drawer. Not because I was done driving, because I didn't need to see them anymore. Somewhere in town, a man my age was learning the settings on a new car. Somewhere else, my daughter was learning the cost of calling a lie alone. And me? I finally understood something it took a lifetime to learn. Ownership isn't about holding on. It's about knowing exactly when to let go and making sure the lesson gets paid for in full.